What's up guys, welcome to part 2 of weight reduction without ruining your car. Now if you guys missed the last episode, be sure to go watch that first because we're gonna continue where we left off in the last episode. We removed the passenger side airbag, the passenger seat, the rear seats, the rear seat belts, bunch of stuff in the trunk, the wiper system, and a few little knickknacks here and there that I can't really remember right now. But all of that summed up to over 130 pounds. Now, it might not seem like a lot to you guys, but it makes a big difference in a car like this. In a car that is already lightweight and a car that doesn't make much power, 130 pounds is quite a bit, but we are not done there. We're gonna keep going in this episode. And I do have a couple things that I wanna try to reduce the weight of the car even further. Now, I do have a list of ideas that I have to reduce the car's weight. Some of the things on that list, I kind of thought about it. It will reduce the car's weight by a lot, but I'm not 100% sure. The main thing on that list I'm not sure about is the crash beams, the front and rear crash beam. Now, a lot of you might think, well, obviously don't remove the crash beams. What if you get rear-ended? What if you hit something? Well, if you guys would have seen an episode from a couple years back with the black Civic that this one replaced, I got rear-ended even with a crash beam and the car was done. I had to get a new Civic and transfer everything over. In my opinion, especially with the track, if I hit a wall or if another car hits me at the speeds that we're going on a racetrack, I don't think a crash beam is gonna save me. I think it might help a little bit, but honestly, it's not gonna do much. So the biggest concern that I have with removing the crash beams is actually the bumpers sagging. I've been told removing the crash beams makes the bumpers sag, so I'm not too sure what I'm gonna do there. I've heard that happening mostly with the front bumper, so I might quickly remove the front bumper and just kind of see what that whole situation would be like. So I could take the front bumper off and remove the crash beam, put the bumper back on, and kind of see how the bumper sits, if the crash beam even weighs enough for me to even consider removing it permanently, both in parts of the bumper sagging and for safety. So that is one thing I want to do at least tonight, is deal with the front crash beam, maybe move on to the rear, and I also want to remove the carpet. I'm going to remove the carpet because in this video I'm going to be dry icing the car. If you guys don't know what dry icing the car means, is using dry ice to remove all of the sound deadener that the OEM manufacturers use to reduce NVH, noise, vibration, and harshness. I'm not going to be removing all of it, but I'm going to be removing most of it. And I'm going to be weighing it so that you guys have an accurate figure of what that weighs. In the last episode, I weighed everything. I didn't necessarily weigh everything individually, but I did weigh batches of parts so that you guys know what the weight value of these parts are in case you guys are looking to do some weight reduction in your Honda as well. And also, some of these things apply to more than just these cars. You can apply this knowledge to any car that you might have that you're looking to, that you might want to get a little bit more of an advantage, because a lighter car does perform better in all aspects, whether it be accelerating, braking, cornering, tire wear. It just helps in every single way. Lighter is better. So that's enough talking. I think I'm going to start with the front bumper. I'm gonna go ahead and remove that and see about that crash beam. So here's the crash beam. I think the most logical step forward would be to remove it and weigh it right away and see if it's a significant amount of weight. Based on how much it weighs will determine whether or not I want to, if I want to try to install the bumper without it. If it doesn't weigh that much, I'm not going to bother. I'd rather have it for safety. I want to see if the bumper is actually as saggy as people say it is, if it's heavy enough to even try. So I think I see just a few 14mm bolts. I'm going to go ahead and remove the crash beam and then weigh it go from there. Okay, so I haven't even gotten to removing the crash beam and I already found a problem. I think I know why people say that the bumper sag, and that is because this bumper support here that's underneath the headlight is bolted to the crash beam structure. So if you remove the crash beam altogether, you lose this structure, which means you have nowhere to mount this bumper support. And now some of the things I've seen on Instagram of other guys with EKs have cut the crash beam somewhere around here. And now I see why. So yeah, at least now I know why people say that the bumpers sag on these cars when you remove the crash beam. It's because of this. So let's get to removing the crash beam finally. Yeah, this thing doesn't really weigh very much. I thought it was going to be heavier. It's pretty thin steel, but I'm going to grab the scale and make sure. I want to see if this is worth it. Alright, let's see about this crash beam. Okay, so this thing weighs 13.2 pounds. It's not very heavy. I think if I cut it and I remove the middle section, I would probably lose about 8 pounds. I don't know. Well, I don't know what I should do. If I cut the middle out, which I have seen a lot of people do, I kind of predict I'll save about 7 to 8 pounds. So I think I'm going to mark it all the way around with some masking tape. Leave maybe like a 2-inch gap on each side and cut this middle section out. Alright, so let's see if this was worth it. Here's the center section of the front crash beam. 6.6 pounds. I estimated between 7 and 8, so I guess I was a little under on that. But we lost 6.6 pounds out of the front crash beam. Like I told you guys in the first episode, some of you guys might or might not agree with some of the methods that we're using in this video to reduce weight out of the car, but I mean, this thing cut like butter. It's super, super thin metal. I don't see it as a safety issue. I see it as a weight issue. I would consider this more of a bumper support than a crash beam. So off it goes. I'm gonna go ahead and clean those main parts up and reinstall them on the car. So what I did is I took the die grinder and I knocked down the worst areas that had rust, and then I just gave it a quick and dirty shot of matte black just to kind of help prevent more rust. And this paint dries super quickly, so as soon as this is dry, I'm going to go ahead and install it on the car. Now in the last episode, I removed the entire wiper system, and now that I have the bumper off, I can actually go ahead and remove the wiper reservoir here. So that will be the tank, the fluid, the motor, some of the wiring, and some of the mounting hardware. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove this and see how much this weighs. Okay, how should I weigh this? I kind of want to fill it with some water. I mean, it has some in there, I don't have washer fluid. I'm not gonna waste washer fluid for this, but part of me wants to fill it up, as in like worst case scenario weight. This is empty, almost empty. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fill it up halfway. Let's be fair, I'm gonna fill it up halfway, assuming most people have some washer fluid in their car. I'm gonna fill it up halfway and see how much that weighs. Okay, so washer fluid reservoir, the tube, the pump, and filled up halfway. I just feel like I don't want to weigh it empty and I don't want to weigh it full, so I would just want to take the average and assume some people have some washer fluid, so I filled it up halfway. Let's see how much this weighs. This is 3.4 pounds. So that was a lot of work just to save, you know, a few pounds, but you know what? It turned out pretty good. The bumper doesn't look like it's sagging whatsoever. I was able to retain that foam piece. I think overall it was a success, and with the bumper off, it was pretty easy to get to the washer fluid bottle, so that's a plus. And that's more weight out of the front of the car, which is what I want more. I think I'm gonna call it a night here, guys. It's getting pretty late, I'm getting pretty hungry, so I'm gonna go ahead and clean up, get out of here, but I will be back tomorrow morning and keep going on this thing. Alright guys, it's the next day here. I'm back in the shop with the Civic, and I went ahead and started to peel forward the carpet towards the front of the car because I'm getting ready to use dry ice on the floor. Now, if you guys have never heard of that method before, what it means to use dry ice on the floor is exactly that. You're going to use dry ice on the floor of the car, specifically on the areas that have sound deadener applied to it, And what that's going to do is it's going to bring down the temperature of the sound deadener by quite a bit using the dry ice, which is going to shrink it just a little bit, and it will release its bond from the floor of the car, allowing you to remove it a lot easier. The purpose of this is removing the sound deadener to reduce the car's weight. Sound deadening material is very heavy. I'm not sure how much of it there is in terms of pounds in this car, but I'm going to remove as much as I can to an extent. I'm actually going to leave the sound deadener intact from a certain rail in the floor forward, which is where my feet go, just to kind of prevent a lot of the heat from the engine and the header and the exhaust to radiate through the floorboard into my legs and into my passenger's legs, and kind of just keeping the car a little bit more streetable. I know it still has AC, but I'm still going to be removing the majority of the sound deadening in the car. I kind of started removing a lot of the interior in anticipation to remove the carpet out of the car altogether, but I kind of decided to stop and kind of just peel it forward just to save me some time, because it is a very hot day. It's 90 degrees here in California. It's February, which is weird, but 90 degrees, and my dry ice is in a cooler right now, and I don't want it to evaporate very quickly, so I'm gonna get started as fast as I can. So I'm gonna start by laying the dry ice out and start spreading it around the floor and start working my way around the floor of the car, and I'm gonna start tapping it with a hammer. You don't want to go crazy and smacking the floor, denting everything. You just kind of want to tap it, and that will release the sound deadening off the floor. You guys will see that in just a bit. Safety tip: dry ice, ironically enough, will burn you. Make sure you use the proper protection. A beefy set of gloves is always recommended. I've always gotten away with like mechanics gloves. It's good enough. I don't hold it for a long time. I kind of just tap it around, or I might just pick it up and drop it for like a quick second. Make sure you use gloves. Do not do this bare hand. It will burn you. So without further ado, it's time to dry ice the floor of this car. Alright guys, I just got done with that whole dry ice thing, and it took hours and hours of work. My arms are tired, but I think it was worth it. It came out to 10.4 pounds. I did have to vacuum a ton of it out. I couldn't grab it with my hands. So I want to say that I should add about, let's say, to be fair, about a pound. Let's add 1 pound of sound deadening that I had to actually vacuum out. I couldn't get it all. 11.4 pounds worth of sound deadening. That puts us at 159.2 pounds of total weight loss in this car as of this point. Driving the car for the past few days, I started to kind of consider setting a goal for 200 pounds, but honestly, I'm really starting to run out of things to remove. I'm not budging on the AC or the heat or the power steering or the stereo for that matter. That's kind of like the whole goal of this video series, is just to show that you can remove a lot of weight. You're gonna kind of suffer in the NVH department, but you're kind of signing up for that when you do stuff like this. But I wanted to show you guys that there's a substantial amount of weight that could be removed from a car without having to sacrifice a lot of that stuff. If you really want to get super light with the car, you can. But if you have a car that's kind of like a semi-daily driver or even a full daily driver that sees occasional track use, this kind of stuff is worth it. Having a goal of 100 pounds and hitting close to 160, I think that's pretty good. What I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna get the interior back together. I'm kind of taking this opportunity to kind of wipe things down, start putting all the interior parts back together, put the harness and harnesses back together, put the seat back in, and see if there's anything else we can do in this video. Alright guys, I got the Civic all cleaned up and put together. I got the shop all cleaned up, all the tools put away, and that's gonna be a wrap in this video. 159.2 pounds total removed from the car, and that's without removing the AC, the power steering, the stereo, the heater. I got to keep all of that. I still have the carpet. I think that's an accomplishment, given that this is still part street car, part track car. So I hope this video helps some of you guys with some weight reduction questions. And if you have any further questions, feel free to comment down below. I'm more than happy to answer them for you. And let me know what you guys think. Almost 160 pounds. I'll round it up to 160 if I skip breakfast. You know, it's possible. What's not to say that this car will be fully stripped in the future? We don't know. But for now, thanks for watching guys. Please like and subscribe. And remember, function, momentum, grip.